attack. And he has all the people all excited about doing this. And about 50 different places around Jerusalem, they've started to build the wall, to build it, to strengthen it, to build the gates. Okay? And then their enemies hear about this. Their enemies are Samaritans who live in the northern kingdom, or maybe they live around nearby as well, and they don't like this idea. And they are ridiculing the Jews, making fun of them, and hoping that this will somehow or other get the Jews to stop. But the Jews are continuing to do it. And they're halfway through the job, which we're not sure if that means halfway this direction or halfway in that direction. And they're all excited about it. But then the enemies join together and join forces and start to attack. And this upsets the Jews. What else does it do? It what's the word? Discourages them. That's what we're up to. Yes, page 24. I think we're up to.
That's okay.
Yeah. So they want to ruin our plans, to confuse us. We pray to Hashem that He should stand by us. We establish guards at night to guard against attack. And then the Jews say, let's go pasuk down it again. Yehuda, the people of Yehuda said, Koshal koach hasabel, the strength to bear is weak. We don't feel we have the strength to do these two jobs, to fight and to build. The ha'efe harbe, there's lots of soil, which is unclear what that means. I saw there's a bit of a debate. Doesn't mean, like I said yesterday, the amount of work still to be done is described as the soil because you use cement to join rows of bricks together. And that's the soil being referred to.
They did that then?
Well, they use something in it for cement. They use some type of material to join bricks together.
They weren't stacked?
No, you see that the coastal that was stacked because there's huge bricks. They're so big they don't need cemented. But if you have small bricks, I mean, when they built the Tower of Babel, right, it says very clearly they used this as bricks and this for mortar. Mortar is the stuff that you join bricks together with. Others say it means the rubble. When it says the Efer, when it's talking about the soil, it means the amount of rubble from the broken walls that's in the way of the building. There's lots of rubble in the way. And therefore we can't continue to build the wall. So either there's a lot of work ahead, but the point is they're a bit, turned off. They're not disillusioned. Disheartened at the amount of work which they have to do. They were all excited a minute ago, but now they're being attacked. This is disheartening. Vayomru, and they said, again we're talking about Tzarenu, our enemies. So our enemies said, this is the Jewish people speaking, our enemies have said, Lo yedu, let them not know. V'lo yiru, let them not see. Ad asher navo el tocham, until we come amongst them. V'haragnum, and then we will kill them. V'hishbasnu, and we will bring a stop. That's from the word Shabbat. Shabbat is a day of rest when you stop. And we will stop them. V'hishbatnu, and we will stop es hamlacha, the work. So the Jews are here repeating what they think the Goyim, their enemies, have said about that. Now, how they know, which was Dylan's question yesterday, I think we're going to find the answer to that in the next pasuk. How they know what the Goyim have said. But that's what it's saying. Our enemies have said that they're going to attack in a way that we won't know or see them until it's too late. Ayomu tzarenu, the tzarenu, those who are oppressors, have said, Lo yedu, they will not know. Means the Jews inside Jerusalem won't know because we're going to attack at night or secretly from an angle they won't know. We're going to surprise them. So they won't know or see until we're already inside Jerusalem, and we will kill them and we'll stop them doing the work. So that's another reason why the Jews are disheartened, because they know that their enemies are going to, at any point, they know they're planning to attack in a way they won't be able to defend them. Vayehi. Now this is the pasuk I got stuck on yesterday. I really didn't know what it means. I don't remember ever seeing this idea. Kasher ba'u haYehudim. When the Jews came, Which Jews? Hayoshvim etzlam, who live by them. The Jews who lived by them. So who's it referring to? The Jews who lived where? Where do they live? Come to the Jews who lived in Jerusalem, because that's not living by them. Well, people always live where they live, right? So who's the them they're referring to?
Does that have anything got to do with like Etzelem, or no?
No, it doesn't mean that. No, it's not from the word Selem, it's from the word Etzel. The mem is a suffix. Etzel otam. Etzel means next to. It means the Jews who live next to the enemies. When the Jews came, which Jews? The ones who lived near the enemies, near Tsarenu. Means the last mentioned group in the previous pasuk was Tsarenu, our enemies, our oppressors. So they lived in the villages around or the towns around, but there were Jews who lived there as well. And they came and reported their plans of their neighbors. Now that answers your question, didn't it? How do we know? Because there were Jews who heard what these goyim were saying, boasting and making fun of the Jews, what they were doing. That was your question. How do we know? Because there were Jews who came and told them. Who lived in their towns. And they said to us, they told us 10 times. They came back again because we didn't believe them the first time. Or the second time. They came 10 times to tell us what they'd heard from their Goyish neighbors. Now, the next two words is a debate how to read it. The Malbim reads it, Mikolam Kamot. They came from all the places. It means it wasn't just that the number of times they came and told us, it was the number of different places they came from. It wasn't just the Jews from one town, from all the Goyish towns around, they came with the same report. That's what got us to trust, to believe them. They came many times from all different places with the same story. The Goyim are planning to attack secretly at night from this and this place, and they had this information. Now, how did they get the information? It doesn't say. They overheard it. The Goyim said it out loud in the pubs without realizing these Jews. They didn't know that they were Jews, right? I don't know. It doesn't. Nobody says how the Jews got. Some say the Jews were actually part of the Goyish forces. They forced them to join forces, a bit like the Romans sometimes had Jews in their ranks, and they forced them to. It's Masada forced the Jewish slaves to build siege ramps and they were to attack the people on Masada. So I don't. It doesn't say. Were they? It could be they just were their neighbors and they heard them planning and they didn't even realize that they understood their language. Maybe they didn't know they were Jewish. Different suggestions. But when Jews came from those and told us, and they gave us information, and they said, "Asher toshuvu aleinu," that you should toshuvu. Now, the word toshuvu means to come back upon us. Now, that's also not clear what that means. But this is their advice. We can call them Jewish spies. They weren't really spies, but they had inside information, which they now shared with us, telling us when they would attack, where they would attack. And then they said, Tashuv was, what Malbim reads like this, Tashuv means you've got to come back, means at the moment you're all spread around the whole town. And if you do that, you're letting yourself open for attack. Because they're planning to attack at one point. There'll only be 2 or 3 people or 10, our family, who are building in that area. They won't be able to defend that part of the town. So if you know where they're going to attack and you concentrate your forces at that point, then you'll be able to push away the attack. So tashuvu, he's reading this. Tashuvu means to withdraw from your building activities around the whole town and focus on one place. Aleinu, which can then be used against us. Against us, because they were actually part of it. The people then were part of the enemy forces. But although they were working on the side of the enemy, they actually didn't want the enemy to win. They wanted the Jews to win. And that's why they gave information to be used against them. They said, Tashuvu, if you withdraw from your positions and focus on one point, Aleinu, then you'll be able to fight against us. Right? There's a lot you have to read into this passage, but I don't see any better way to do it. It's a bit stretched. Okay, but that's clear. That's clear. We're talking about Jews who lived amongst the Goyim, who had information. and they either gave them advice, which we're just saying now, or they gave them information, which where the Goyim were going to attack. Did the Jews in Jerusalem trust them? And I wouldn't. He could be. I would be careful. I would take the information and use it, but not rely on it. We'll concentrate all our forces in one point, and they'll come attack from the other side.
Yeah, why don't you just build the towers or have lookouts, and then because they're at the top of the hill, so they'd have the advantage of seeing when the enemy's coming.
Just a second. First of all, they may come at night. Second of all, maybe too late when you do that. But no, they're planning to come in a way that they wouldn't notice. They come secretly, there's the ambush, they come quiet, a few people hiding here, a few then. When you shout the call, everyone will come out hiding and attack. Okay, so what we're going to do. So now we have to defend ourselves against a possible attack. But probably now have this new information. Vo'a'amit. La'amot means to stand. But here it's in the causative. I caused others to stand. Means I, Nehemiah, gave instructions to people to stand. Vo'a'amit. Mitachtios, from underneath. Lamakom, the place. So the way the Malbim reads this is a continuation of this idea. If the spies, the Jewish spies in the enemy camp, have given us information of where the planned attack is, so Nehemiah is going to concentrate these forces on that point. So the place, here is the place which we've been given as the planned attack.
Where's the Lamakom, not Hamakom?
Yeah, no, underneath. Underneath of the place. But I don't mean underneath the place. We're hiding underneath the ground. Or maybe it means at the bottom of the wall. Behind the wall. So I have a whole group of soldiers who are hiding from the enemy behind the wall. Not in the front, because the enemy can see them all. We don't want the enemy to know that we know about their attack. So we've got our reinforcements hiding behind the wall at that point. Mitachtios lamakom, at the bottom of the place, behind the wall, bitzechichim. Tzechichim is an unusual word. The Mefarshim say it means in the hideouts. Va'amid esa'am, and I got the people to stand, lemishpachos, according to their families. Means the family that was in this area building the wall, they continued to stay there. Everything looked like normal. There's one family doing this, one family doing this. This is the area they're going to attack. They continued in their family units to continue building the wall, whilst behind the wall there was a whole platoon of soldiers ready to defend if we're going to be attacked. So there's two groups of people. The people who are standing hidden and those who are continuing to work. Now, those who continue to work, or both groups, im charvotehem, with their swords, ramchehem, with their spears, v'kashtotehem, and their bows. Keshet is a bow, like a rainbow. Keshet. So these are the weapons they're using to defend the swords, spears, and bows, and arrows, I suppose, right?
And shields, I'm guessing.
It doesn't mention shields, but it does mention shields later on. So, okay. Va'era. And I presume that means I saw. Right, because it would be, I feared it would be Va'ira. Ira would be, I was scared. Va'era, and I saw. Now, what did he see? It doesn't say. I suppose it means I saw that everything was in position. Va'akum, and I got up. Va'omar, and I said, El hachorim, to the officers, El askanim, and to the deputies, El yesera'am, to the other people, Al tiru, don't be scared. That's from the word ira. Don't be scared. Mipneihem, I presume they were scared, which is why they need words of encouragement. Don't be scared. Es Hashem hagadol v'hanoira zichoru. Remember the Lord, the great and awesome God. If you think about Him, that you're fighting on his behalf and he's going to help you, then you'll be okay. V'hilachamu, and go to war, fight, alacheichem, on behalf of your brothers, b'neichem, and your sons, u'benoteichem, and your daughters, nisheichem, and your wives, u'bateichem, and your homes, then God will help you. So trust in God and fight on behalf of your families. And
Why is Batechem not your daughters?
no,
What would that?
no, they don't say that. You say benotechem. It had to be one.
Right.
Banot is the pro. Bas is a daughter. Banot is the pro. Where does the nun come from? No idea.
Right.
Right.
Nishchem is daughter.
Neshechem is your wives.
Yeah, why?
Right. Right. Batechem are your homes, your houses. Bayit. Batechem.
So what's the again? It's houses, daughters, wives.
Sons, brothers.
It goes brothers, sons, daughters, wives.
What about for God?
Stops the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, they're fighting for God. Fighting with God's help. Counting, fighting to protect their families and their homes. Okay, so those are the words of encouragement, and Nehemiah went round to his troops and gave them. It was Kasher Shamu Oivenu, when our enemies heard Ki Noida Lonu, that we had been informed. Noida from the word like that. They found out that we knew. How did they find out that we knew? Doesn't say. It could be they attacked and we attacked them back, and they said, "Oh, we knew where they were. We were waiting for them." Or it could be word got out that we had defended ourselves exactly at the spot they were intending to attack. No, it doesn't say. When they found out, Vayofer Elokim etzasasam, and God had annulled their plan. Noshav kulano el hachomer, so we all went back to the wall, Isha Malachta, each one to his work. There's a bit missed out. It doesn't say how they knew, it doesn't say what they did, but you get what it's saying is, they obviously then went away and they didn't attack, so we went back to work. Once we felt the threat was not on us, how do we know? It doesn't say how we know. It doesn't say how we knew that they knew. It doesn't say how they knew either. But once they knew and they gave up on us, somehow or other we knew they gave up on us, then we went back to work. Okay? But the Malbim says, it's true we went back to work, but we were still, at this point, still guarding this particular part of the wall, because we still didn't know whether they given up the plans. We waited and waited when the plan was meant to be for a certain time, certain place. It didn't happen, so we started to be more relaxed, and we went back to work and not completely on guard duty, and we did both work and guard duty at the same time. But the Malbim sees that we haven't gone back to the rest of the wall. That's still being left, because we want to guard this particular part, because we haven't given up on this point yet. And now we're going to describe the dual jobs of working and guard duty at the same time. How do you do both jobs? How it was split. Okay? Vayi, and it was min hayomahu, from that day onwards. Okay, originally they were building, then they went to guard, and now we're going to do both together. We can't keep guarding the whole time because there's no point. We have to keep building. So once the original plot to attack has been pushed away, so we went back to work somewhat, and we made the two together. Vayi min hayomahu was what from that day onwards. Chatzi na'arai, half of my lads, means half of my men, osim bamlacha, were doing the work. Means half of them, sounds like, what's the work? Building. So half of the people were building. The chetziam, and the half, means the other half, machazikim, are, what it really means to hold on strongly, right? V'haramachim, and the spears, hamaginim, the shields, like Magain Abraham, v'hakishatot, and the bows, v'hashirionim, and the armor. Shirion is armor. Now that wasn't mentioned before, and we'll talk about it in a second. And the shields weren't mentioned before.
Yeah.
Okay?
And there's no swords now.
There's no swords, correct? Now I'll tell you in a second what the idea is. The hasarim, and the officers, acharei, following, Kol Beis Yehuda, the whole of the tribe of Yehuda, the whole of the house of Yehuda, Let's do the next part and I'll go back to explain it all. Habonim b'choma, those who are building the wall. V'hanosim basevel omsim, and nosea means to carry. Sevel means the burden. Omsin is what's been the burden that's been placed upon them. Ba'achat yado oseh b'mlacha, with one hand he was working. Ba'achas, in one hand, machzeket hashelach, was holding a shalach. What's a shalach? I would say some type of weapon is clear from the story, right? The Malbim says it's a double-edged sword. Sword where both edges are sharp. Just do one more pass, then we'll go back to it. V'abonim, and the builders, ish charba, each one with his sword. Now it's come from a shelach to a sword. Asurim means tied. Asur is like matir asurim. We say in the morning brachas, he who unties those who are tied. Asurim is tied. Al mosnav, on his waist. Ubanim, and they're building. Batokea b'shofar, and the one who blows on the shofar, etzli, is next to me.
Matir isn't that lets the things that are not allowed become allowed.
No, that would be, it was matir isurim, but there is no such bracha. That's what.
Asul in Hebrew is not allowed. It's asul.
Isur.
It's asul.
It is asur,
Yeah.
but the thing is an isur. The two words are the same, because something which is not allowed means your hands are tied, right? You can't touch it. So that which is asur, right? Right. So the thing is asur to do. It's an isur to do it, but matir isurim, right? There's no such bracha. It's matir asurim. Shabsai Tzvi invented a new bracha called matir isurim, right? And he used to make that bracha before he used to eat chaylet. You know what Shabsai Tzvi is? Shabsai Tzvi was a person who claimed to be the Mashiach,
Yeah.
right? In the year 1648, 1649, 1650, 1640, 1648. Exactly 300 years before the state of Israel was established. 1648. And he claimed to be the Mashiach. And one of the things he did publicly was he ate chaylev. Chaylev, the bits of the animal you're not allowed to eat. The bits that, what?
The thigh.
No, that's also, but that's not what it means. No, it means the fats in the stomach. It's the fats in the stomach, the fats on the kidneys, the bits that go on the mizbeach. So his argument was that he's so holy that he's like the mizbeach, and therefore he's allowed to eat it. And he used to eat it, and before he ate it, he used to make the bracha. Matir isurim, he who permits that which is forbidden.
Did most people believe him or not really?
Some people did. A lot of hamon am means simple people believed it. To the point that there were many rabbis who were thrown out of town because they didn't believe it. That their congregants threw the rabbis out and they say, if you don't. We used to have a guy in this class who belonged to a community in Holland, and there they have a copy of a letter that they sent to Shabsai Tzvi accepting him as their king, signed by the patrons of the synagogue. Got it at home, copy of it. You know, the big thing. It was awful time. Anyway, that's a terrible story in Jewish history. Who?
What happened to him in the end? Because he was fake.
What happened to him? He was challenged by the Sultan of Turkey, and he said, if you're really Mashiach, then you should be able to have your head chopped off and have no problem. This is what the Sultan believed, that no one can chop the head of the Mashiach off.
Is that true?
I don't know if it's true, but the Sultan believed this should be a good test. If you're really the Mashiach, I shouldn't be able to chop your head off. Or I should be able to chop it off and you should be able to put it back on, or something like this.
Head to be chopped off, or he...
No, you have a choice. You can either let me chop your head off, or you can convert to Islam. That was a choice he gave him, and he converted to Islam.
Yeah.
Because he knew he didn't want his head chopped off.
And then he died, eventually?
Oh, eventually he died. This was 300 years ago. And a lot of his followers converted to Islam. But they claimed he was just hiding. It was just this was going into the years where the Mashiach goes into hiding. It's just a test.
Now?
There are people who still follow him, but they're
Muslims?
They're really Muslims, yeah. But they're descended from those Jews who converted. They're called I think they're called the Duna. and they live in Istanbul or whatever. It's a group of people who are Muslims but claim to be Jewish descent and followers of
according
Shabbat,
to them.
and they still follow him. They still believe in him. Whatever.
According to
How
them,
did it become so popular?
according to Judaism, they're still Jewish.
Yeah,
If they-
right. If they are married amongst themselves, correct.
How do you become so popular?
How to become popular?
How did Hitler become?
How did Herzl become popular? How did the state of Israel become popular? Because it's a great idea. Who doesn't want to be set up a state and kick all the goyim out? Right? He had a prophet called Nathan of Gaza, and he claimed to be the Eliyahu Hanavi. You have to read up on it. It's a fascinating story as well. It's a lot written about it. Shabtai Tzvi. It's from Smyrna in Turkey. He was big into Kabbalah. That's why people were so wary about the Ramchal. You know the Ramchal?
On this one.
Right. People were very scared of him because he reminded people of Shabtai Tzvi. Because he was a young, very charismatic, into Kabbalah before he was even, as a bacha, he was teaching Kabbalah to people before he was married. And people who were over the 60s still remembered Shabtai Tzvi in the times of Moshe Chaim Lotzat. It wasn't like so much afterwards. It got people very scared. There was obviously a lot of the opposition to Hasidus was also the same idea. Why the Misnagdim was so much concerned, people doing, because Hasidim were also into Kabbalah. Once you get into Kabbalah and people are scared, they can't trust you because you know what you can get up to. Because it has a bad name.
So truly, they're not supposed to know before 40.
So when you get people who are in their 18s teaching Kabbalah, it's suspicious. Whatever, there are exceptions. Ramchal was an exception, but you can understand why you have rabbinic opposition to it, and people, rabbis, are scared because Shabtai Tzvi was it was awful because it left people so broken. People, we learned in English history that there's a guy called Samuel Pepys. Have you heard of him? Right?
Where did I know him from?
Okay. Samuel Pepys wrote a diary. And the diary, so a lot of our information about the fire of London and the plague of London was written by Samuel Pepys. But in his diary, he writes that the Jews in London are selling their property because they believe the Messiah has come. People were saying to the Goyim, when the Mashiach comes, you're going to be working for us. You're going to be our slaves. And I read an article written by a woman who wrote a captain there in Germany also. There people sold their property and they sold their businesses. They were on the way. Mashiach, as far as they were concerned, Mashiach had come. They were on the way back. Anyway, you can read about it if you want. So why am I talking about Mashiach? Shabtai Tzvi, can't remember. What's going to do anything?
The bracha.
Which bracha? Oh, Matir Isurim. That's what it's going to do with it. Well, okay. Okay. And did we have the word over here?
Yeah, I still remember tied.
Where? Where does it say?
I have one in.
Yud Beis, right. Okay. So let's go back to these three psukim describing it's weird. There's actually three different groups of people over here, so the Malvin explains. One of them are my lads. Nehemiah is describing his lads, and he said half of them are doing work, half of them are fighting. And then there's others, it says, they work with one hand and fight with the other hand. And with the others, it says, they work and have their swords tied. So he explains like this. Ezra's Na'arim were professional soldiers. They weren't just regular Jews from Yerushalayim. They were probably the guys who came with him from the Persian army. They came with him from the Persian army. And these guys were armed to the teeth. That's why it says they had shields, they had armor, right? So you can't work with one hand and fight with the other, just too heavy, right? So the way to do that is half of them worked and half of them were armed, right? But the other Jews who were not soldiers, so they also had weapons, but you could hold a sword in one hand and carry a brick on the other hand, right? Ready in case you're attacked, right? But what happens if you're actually a bricklayer?
You put it on your head.
Yeah, but you're actually putting the bricks in place and cementing. You need both hands for that.
You put it in a holster.
So they put in a holster. That's why there's three psukim there. Let's go back. From that day on, my lads, it says in Pasuk Yud, half of them were working, and half of them were holding onto the spears, on their shields, on their bows, and their armor. That's one group. The Hasarim, the ministers, that means the people in Yerushalayim, Acharei Kol Beis Yehuda, they're together or following the rest of Yehuda. So of those you have as follows: Habonim b'choma, those who are building the wall. V'anoisim b'sevel, those who are carrying the burden, those who are carrying the bricks. Omsim, that have been laden on them. But achas yodo, with one hand, oisim b'maloch, does his job like this, I suppose. But achas, he holds a sword, which is a shelach, not a cherev. I'm not sure why one holds one sword and one holds the other one, right? And maybe I'll answer in a second. That's a double edged sword that you hold in your hand. The haboinim, but the builders, that's possibly your base. Then each one had his sword tied, ready to pull out, but he couldn't hold it because he was building with both hands. And to building in both hands. Now, the Malbim says, but I don't know if he means this
literally or figuratively.
No, he means it literally. I don't know if he means it specifically. That the double-edged sword is held in your hand, whereas the single-edged sword is kept in a sheath. I don't know why you can't keep a double-edged sword in a sheath as well.
Yeah.
You can do, right?
Yeah.
I think it's more important because it's
Yeah.
double-edged to hurt yourself on. So
How do you put it in a sheath? How do you put both edges in the sheath?
double-edged means that both sides are sharp.
Not like,
No, it doesn't mean. I don't mean it's got to. It means it's got blade at both ends. It's got a point at both ends.
No, that's not what it means.
No, I mean maybe that's what a shelach is. One that has a point at both ends. You know, or it sounds like more like a
Samurai style.
yeah, sort of Chinese or Japanese or something.
What?
Or like
Has
Star Wars.
a spike at both ends.
Oh, but those are staffs.
What?
Those are staffs. Those are long staffs.
Well, those are, but you can have a short one as well doing the same thing. No.
Not really.
And you're entering Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like lightsaber.
Did they have them? Yes. Were they used? Not really.
Yeah, they said the swords were not a primary weapon.
Who in Star Wars?
Throughout history.
Throughout history, swords were not a primary.
Swords were not the primary
It's
weapon.
not practical.
No, it is practical. It's
More
just
practical is arrows and
Long spear.
a long spear. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Throughout history, the spear was the most used weapon. Even during like.
You can't use a spear when you're right next to someone.
And I thought.
But if it's a spear with a
Yeah.
blade that you can hold closer to the.
They had short spears. You had just like the tip, a shorter spear. Not as long as a huge one. Just
So what are
like,
swords for?
swords are for the more trained. Those are for the
More like-
professionals.
even though, by the way, I thought I was like contradiction with that. A samurai,
Yeah.
the whole thing were swords.
No, the
Yeah.
whole thing were horseback archers.
Yeah, and then I realized that was just for like it's not the
Se-
primary weapon. It's
It's
just
a secondary.
it's a secondary weapon for close combat.
Yeah.
Okay.
The best thing is to not put yourself at that risk. So
Which is
obviously
why
you wanna-
which is why they were bowmen.
Yeah, archers, stuff like that.
Okay,
Crazy.
good. All right.
Tactical
So these
assault.
guys, I don't know, for some reason, unless it's double-edged, I don't know why you don't put it in the sheath. No, but that's what it says. I mean, the Malbim says that here it's just safe and practical. What you hold in your hand because then you're ready to fight with it. But if you're building, you can't hold anything in your hand. You have to keep it in the tied to your waist.
I mean, you should put it in the sheath anyway, so that way you can do your job and then just drop whatever you're working. Just because it's not.
You want to know why in the other case didn't they do that?
Yeah.
Oh, why couldn't it
So I think because then you don't have to put it out. If someone comes to attack you, you're ready.
Yeah, but then you could do you could do a lot. You could do work quicker.
Yes, but you don't
and
want-
two. If they're all the way out there,
I don't know. Maybe he's just gonna be around the corner. I want to surprise me. So we're ready at any second.
Yeah, but I thought these were the guys
Around.
inside the city.
Why did you think that?
'Cause then
These
that's
guys
what
who
they-
were building the wall. I didn't say anything.
Ah,
These are the guys who were building it. One thing, don't forget, beforehand we had two stages. One was the original day of the planned attack. No one was working there at all. Everyone was ready to fight.
Yeah.
And then we say started to get back to usual. We stayed where we were to guard this area, but we're going to keep building. So they continue. So some of them were working and some of them were building, and others were guys building with one hand and kept the weapon in the other hand, and some guys kept the weapon strapped to them. Okay. All right. V'omer el hachayrim, and I said to the officers, v'asganim, and to the deputies, yes, Hara'am, and I said, Hamalacha harbe, there's lots of work to do. Right? Means, and the Malbim sees this the same. We can't just focus here. It's true. This is the place where we're going to get attacked. Okay, so we have to focus our forces here, but we've got to go and build the rest of the wall. So how are we going to do this? To go back to the rest of the wall, so then all the people, there's less soldiers over here. So what we're going to do. So he's come up after a while when they saw that the original plan had been delayed. So they decided as follows: Hamalacha harbe. There's lots of work. Urachava, and it's very wide, meaning it's also spread out over the whole city, which is a big city, not very big, right? But We can't just defend it from one position. And we, if we go out to do all that work, we will be spread out on the wall, rechokim, distant, ishmei each man from his brother. So what's our solution? And that's what I want to do. I want everyone to go back to work, and we're all spread out. So as follows: Bimkom asher tishmeu es kol hashofar. In the place that you hear the sound of the shofar, because I, Nehemiah, are going to have this guy blowing the bugle, whatever it is, next to me, and when we see that we're being attacked, we'll sound the shofar, and you will come to the point of where the shofar is being blown from. I guess that's it. There you will get together Eleinu to us, and Keinu, our God, Yilachem Lanu, should fight for us. So that's the new plan, that we're all going to go back to work, and the sound of the shofar will get us all together to defend the city. So now this is a new version of the way the work was split up. We're doing the work. Chetziam, half of them, machzikim baramachim, are holding the spears. Now we're not talking about half of my lads, or the builders, or the porters. Half of everyone was divided into two groups. Half were working, half were defending. From the dawn, right, daybreak, when the morning comes up, until the stars come out. That's the work day, from dawn till night.
Yes.
Right? This, by the way, is, I think, the first page of Shas in the Gemara Brachos brings this pasuk to establish when the work day is. It says we work from dawn till no, I don't know, dusk, till night, till Tzesek HaChavim, till the stars come out. It gets dark.
What was Mark?
I think he's saying the opposite. The day doesn't finish at sunset. So it's clear, right? When does the day finish? When does the work day finish? When it gets dark, right? It could be they needed longer because they was desperate to stretch the hours because they needed to get this wall finished to protection. It could be a normal work day would be 9 to 5, but their work day were from 6 till 7 because they had to work. So it can't really prove from this story. I think the Gemara brings this as its initial support for how long. What's called the halachic day. What's called the end of the day is day when, because it said I think of course it continues. Gamba Esahi, also at that time, Amauti La'am, I said to the people, Ish v'na'ara, each man and his lad, means that his helpers, Yalinu, should sleep betoch Yerushalayim, inside Jerusalem. I suppose that means as opposed to those who would have lived in the villages, right? It's better for you to be here. A, you're more protected if you're here. B, you're ready on call. You don't have to come from work in the morning, which is wasting time. What about them?
Wouldn't their families be in the villages?
Correct.
And wouldn't the less people in the villages mean they're less safe?
Correct. So that's a consideration. What can I do? Right? But the point is we have to get this wall finished. Right? Could be. Right? It could be that there's other people who are defending them in the villages. Right? But the people who are here building shouldn't go back home at night. They should stay here. Okay? So that helps them to protect them. This is what needs to be done now. And okay. The night was for Mishmar means not what you do here Thursday night. That's also called Mishmar. Guarding. The day was work. During the day, half the people were guarding and half the people were working. At night, everyone was on guard duty. Did anyone sleep? I suppose some people sleep, right? But it slept. It doesn't go into when people slept. When was their time for sleeping? Ve'ein ani ve'achai, and I and my brothers would not. Una arai, and my lads. Ve'anshei ha'mishmar, and the men who were on guard. Asher acharai, who were following me. Ein. Now it says the word ein twice, but it really means it once. It's the same ein. It says ein at the beginning of the sentence, it says ein later on.
What's the difference between achai and urai and asher? Like what's different roles?
Yeah. Look, achai means people, comrades, who are of similar status, of age and position. Now arai are those under me. And anshe mishmar are guards who joined my group. They weren't part of my group. We didn't take off our clothes.
They just kept working.
Right, it means we went to sleep in our clothes. We didn't get undressed at night time. We wanted to be ready to defend. at any moment. So we never had time to go home and to change.
What's Parik?
What?
What's Parik?
Well, trying to say how long it was for, right? Okay. Ish shilcha hamayim. Now that's a strange expression. Ish, a man, shilcha, sent him, hamayim, the water. A man, the water sent him.
On a boat.
So I'll tell you how the Mefarshim explain these words. Some say that the word ein, which was written beforehand, is being repeated over here. Ein anachnu poshtim begadeinu. We didn't take off our clothes, even to wash them clothes in water. We didn't take them off to go to sleep, and we didn't take them off to wash them, even when they needed washing. Because you take them off when you wash them, then you have to wait till they dry, and then you're vulnerable once your clothes are drying.
So they just hopped in the river with them on?
No, they kept them on dirty. It was a big deal to wear dirty clothes. It smells, but it's not such a big deal. And especially as you've left your wife back home in the village in any case, so you'll smell. Soldiers smell, that's what it is. You live in the trenches and it's smelly, and it doesn't stop you fighting just because you smell, right?
Tactics.
What?
It's tactic.
On the contrary, saying better, gets the enemy to run away, maybe. Okay, but according to that, it means ein anachnu poshtim b'gadeinu. We didn't take off our clothes, and we didn't do it even if we needed to wash them, right? That's one way to read it. But then the word ein is really missed out. It should say even. There's no even, right? It doesn't say even. It says ish shilchamayim. Others say it means the opposite. It means we didn't take off our clothes to go to bed. The only time we take our clothes if we needed to go in the water. Why did we need to go in the water? Because we were tameh. So if a person became tameh because a dead rat or a dead mouse dropped on him, he was now tameh. Or let's say somebody died and he has to go to a funeral. Now you won't be able to eat karbanos or ma'aseh sheni or truma if you're tameh. So how you do? Then you have to take your clothes off to go to the mikvah. So the only time, and the Chaim is saying the only time we got undressed is when we needed to go into the water, right? You also Dylan on the trip, yeah? Dylan's trip to go to the mikvah. So nobody else. The only time we got undressed on that trip was Dylan, right? Because he needed to go to the mikvah. So saying over here, the only time we got undressed was when we needed to go to the mikvah. Why do you need to go to the mikvah? Because if you live in Yerushalayim and there's a Beis HaMikdash and there's free karbanos food, you understand? And when there was a Beis HaMikdash, there was food available the whole time. Anyone who brought a carbon had to get rid of it. By 12 o'clock tonight, all this meat has to be eaten. So we'd find guys in Yerushalayim who were ready to eat. Good. Or if someone comes with ma'aseh sheni, there's 100 kilos of apples here, ma'aseh sheni. Who wants some free apples? Yeah, you can, but you're tummy. No, you can't eat it because you're tummy. Oh, I'll go to the mikvah and I'll become tummy, right? That's that.
I would live in the mikvah then.
Right? There's meat and there's ma'aseh sheni and there's matzah. There's lots of food for people who are tahar to eat in Yerushalayim. So that's what we say. We only got dressed. Then it means ish shilcha hamayim means the water stripped him of his clothes. Because it looks like the water is the verb, is the active action of the verb. The water, as if to say, it was only when you got to the water that the water stripped you of your clothes, because that was when it was necessary. Because the custom, as we talked about at the time, technically you can't go to mikveh with your clothes on. It's a Mishnah in Nida.
If it's like really loose.
Well,
and you
all your clothes, right? You can go to the mikveh with your clothes because your clothes are loose. If you have it tight, then you can't. That's the way to say it, right? I mean, you couldn't go to the mikveh with this watch because this watch is tight and the water won't go underneath.
A lot of armor is strapped.
But this
it's tight.
This is not tight. This is not tight.
Oh,
No, women can as well.
We can as well.
Me'ikar adin. We don't do it, right? And women. And what's the problem with women is like a ribbon. A ribbon in a woman. A woman has ribbon in your hair because the ribbon is tight. Clothes aren't tight. Even if you have an elastic, they're not that tight. If you go into a mikveh, you will come out wet. Even under your underwear, which is if you go in a wetsuit, you won't get wet.
Armor,
right?
Something.
Also, well, the armor isn't that tight. I imagine water can get inside, right? The Mishnah says a woman who falls off a bridge into a river, right? Mm-hmm. Then the mikveh works, even though she didn't intend to go to the mikveh. And then she was fully clothed, it still works.
What if you just didn't intend to go to the mikveh?
It still works. I'm saying this woman, she fell off the bridge into the water. She's tahor. You don't have to go back. There's no halacha that you have to have l'shem yichud.
Like every time a dover surf, Even though I didn't know where a mikveh was. When I was-
But technically, yes.
And you ever?
Oh,
In the sea.
early, yeah.
In the sea, Everything fell off the surf.
Oh,
No, because on the surf, there's no. The surf is the surfing board.
yeah, but then
You always fall off.
You dunk up the waves to get out. Like,
Okay.
Any sea is
The sea is the mikveh.
What about the ankle?
best
socks?
mikveh.
The sea is a great mikveh. Yeah. The rivers are not so good. Rivers are not as good as the sea.
Why?
Was it still?
Because rivers are rainwater. And
No, always.
no, not always correct. But rivers which are rainwater only work if they're standing still. Which is what we call a mikveh. Rainwater only works when it's standing still. Spring water, which was some rivers are spring water, and some rivers are both. Spring water works even if it's moving.
It's thin
Now,
enough.
some rivers start off as springs, and then
Get
the
filled up
rainwater
with
get
water.
filled with rainwater. There's a whole Gemara about it. How you know what time of the year it's spring water, rainwater depends on what's the majority.
So the lake is always good. Because it's always standing still, usually.
No, lakes are not really good. It
Really?
looks to you they're standing still, they're not really standing still because the river's flowing in, the river's flowing out. It looks like it's standing still.
But
right?
only if... What
Standing
if
still means actually it's surrounded on all four sides of the water. It's actually staying where it is. The water is very slowly moving. So if you have, let's say, a mikveh with a filter, that's no good because the water goes in at one end and then it goes out the other end and gets filtered. So that's called moving.
So,
Mikvahs do have filters where they have internal filters which are in the water. Not the water is they're filtering the water in itself. It's not going out of the mikvah, going into the filter, then coming back in.
Like, what about that one in Spa?
Like swimming, like swimming pools. In a normal swimming pool, a town swimming pool, you can't use as a mikvah. The only reason is, well, women can't use it for different reasons, but even men who go to the mikvah just for Shabbos or that sort of stuff, right? It doesn't have to be a kosher mikvah. It just has to be a pool with standing water. It has to be standing. It means it has to be. It can be tap water. If you fill a pool with tap water, and the water is standing still, then it's good for men's mikvah. When I mean a men's mikvah, I mean what men do. Obviously, if a man wants to go to the Beis Hamikdash and wants to eat truma, then you have to go to a same mikvah the women use. Right?
What's the difference from saying some?
Men's mikvah as a whole is just an Indian. It's not a halacha.
It's just a nice...
So it doesn't actually purify someone.
It doesn't purify you min Torah. It doesn't really work, but it doesn't need to really work. What I mean is, the whole idea of a men's mikvah came from a takana of Ezra. Ezra made a takana. And Ezra's takana wasn't to use a proper mikvah, it was to use a pool of water. And you can use mayim shuvim, you can use even water which is rain tap water. I mean, once we were in camp, and they wanted to use a guy had a swimming pool in his house, and we told him turn off the filter, and then we can use it instead of going to the mikvah for Shabbos. We just went to his pool for Shabbos.
So then
In fact, once you turn off the filter, then it's not moving anymore. It's still standing still.
so why do people go to the sea to make that more often? Like, why is it not?
What do you mean? Who goes?
So why do people not use the actual sea as the mikvah?
They do. Anyone who goes to the sea, because you're going all the way to Tel Aviv, right? It's better to avoid going to Tel Aviv than to go to the mikvah. You're going to get rid of all your Averas, you get more Averas going to Tel Aviv.
There's a reason people call it smell of Eve.
Yeah. What about if you like, I would get a ball and pump a bunch of water up to like a dam on top of a mountain, and then the water falls down and fills up like pools along. That would all be counted as mikvahs.
Again, once it's not naturally, once you pump it up, that's problematic.
that's a problem.
Pumping up is like putting in a bucket.
Okay, but what if it's in this bucket, and then you just
You pour it on the
No,
ground.
once water's been put into a bucket, it can't be used for a women's mikvah. So real mikvahs, which are meant for like tefillas kalim.
What about
you
snow?
put kalim into a thing. So that's that has to be a proper
What
mikvah.
about snow? You collect snow and then move it and then it melts. It wasn't water while it was in the bucket, it was just snow.
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
The truth is, you need to speak to my son-in-law. My son-in-law is an expert on mikvahs. I know nothing about mikvahs.
Yeah,
My son-in-law, his job is to go around the mikvahs in there to and check that they're kosher. He works for an organisation, and he's got slideshows on it, and it's very fascinating. He's got different levels. He's got slideshows for beginners. It's for guys who are learning smicha on mikvahs, and guys who've learned it in kollel for many years, and he goes around showing
Is he in
it.
Jerusalem?
He lives in Jerusalem.
Would he ever consider coming to a class or something? We can ask
I
questions.
can ask him. He spoke about a year ago in the Rova in the shul, Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a film of what they do sometimes, how they make mikvahs from snow.
Okay.
You know, if let's say they build, I don't know, there was an army base in I think an air force base in the Negev. It never snows there, and there's no water there. So what do they do? How do you make a mikvah? Well, you can't bring the water from somewhere because that's called bucketed water.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so for the men wouldn't be a problem, but in these army bases they have pilots who are married, and some of them are from pilots, and their wives want to have a proper mikvah. So what do? How do you build a mikvah when there's no rain? And there's not going to be rain for another 9 months, right? It's just finished Pesach. We need water. We need a mikvah. We just got a new pilot. He's got a from wife. We need a mikvah. So what do? So one of the solutions is to bring snow from the Hermon. Right? As long as there's still snow in the Hermon, which isn't the whole year, but at Pesach time there's still snow in the Hermon. Now snow isn't yet water. So when you put the snow in the bucket, it's not called Mayim She'uvim. It's just you bring the snow and then you bring the snow into your mikvah. As long as you keep it snow on the way, what do? They go up with a freezer truck. They fill the freezer truck with snow from the Hermon. They drive down to the Negev and then they put it into the mikvah, and then it melts in the mikvah.
Whoa.
So you showed a whole film of them doing this.
That's
That's
cool.
so funny.